There is a scene in Stephen Pressfield's classic novel, The Virtues of War, where Alexander the Great reaches the river that he wants to cross with his troops, only to be stopped by a wise man who refuses to move out of their way. One of Alexander's soldiers shouts to the man confronting the bridge. He says, "This man," pointing towards Alexander, "he has conquered the world. What have you done, sir?" The wise man responded confidently and flatly, "I have conquered the need to conquer the world," he said. Oh, snap burn! The wise man had conquered what the great Alexander himself had not conquered. As the saying goes, you cannot control a kingdom if you cannot control yourself. Alexander is an example of ambition run amok. No matter how many nations he conquered, how much land and wealth he accumulated, he had to have more of it. His pursuit for more was insatiable. The great Alexander died at the tender age of 32, and not in battle either, for thousands of years. It was unknown what killed Alexander. He died mysteriously and far away from home. It was speculated that he was killed by his own men in a mutiny, or maybe he died from cirrhosis of the liver, from alcoholism. He was known to be quite a boozer, or maybe he contracted a form of typhoid. And his death was a mystery. No one knew it. Well, a new theory has emerged out of New Zealand, and the evidence from this new theory suggests that Alexander died from a rare autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barré. Guillain-Barré syndrome. It pits the body's immune system against its own nervous system. This would have been an horrifying, excruciating, I would say, and terrifying death for Alexander. Alexander first would have suffered an intense fever and then wicked, sharp pangs in his stomach. Then soon he would be paralyzed and unable to speak as his breathing slowed to an unperceivable level. His doctors and his friends would pronounce him dead, even though he would still be alive, but frozen, speechless, and scared for several more days. People who came to view his body would cry at the sight of his body, which showed no signs of decay whatsoever, believing it was proof that he was a god. But Alexander, he was all too mortal, like anybody else after death. So that's how his death would have been. He was dying right there in front of them, unable to even cry for help or stop them as he was being buried alive. Marcus Aurelius once mused. He said, Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died at the same and the same ending happened to both. Marcus was accurate about both of them dying, but it's unlikely his mule driver did die so horribly. So, what is the lesson out of this we have today? School of Noble Thoughts Daily. I think there are two lessons. Number one is to remind you to have your ambition, your drive. Yes, let it drive you, let it give you that impulse. Yes, but not drive you mad. That's the important thing. To control a kingdom, you must first gain control over yourself. To control your household, your team, to control your business, your community, your church, temple, mosque, whatever your mission, you must first gain control over yourself. And number two, you don't have control over how you die. You don't have control over how you die, but you do have control over how you live. For as great as Alexander claimed himself to be, he was no greater than anyone else who has ever lived on the planet Earth. He was equal. He was as equal, as mortal as anybody else. Today, turn these lessons on yourself. What are you trying to conquer or control on the outside of your life? Where you should instead be focusing on what you need to control or conquer on the inside. And where maybe do you need to remind yourself that you are no greater, no bigger than anybody else who has ever lived. You are, but everyone's equal. And you are just as mortal as your mule. I mean, your Uber driver.